crucial source of evidence in any new appraisal of Africa's past are archaeological discoveries being made along the Niger near Timbuktu. The Niger has always been the lifeblood of this region, just as the Nile was to the eastern Sahara. Its waters provided fish and allowed agriculture to develop. The river was a long-distance trade route connecting the myriad communities along its banks. The Niger River rises in the hills of what was once the ancient kingdom of Fouta-Djallon, 150 miles from the West African coast. And but for a quirk of geology which caused the river to flow inland, the Niger would have been a very short river instead of one of the world's longest. Nearly 3,000 miles long, the river first flows north towards Timbuktu. It then curves eastward before turning southeast through Nigeria to the Atlantic Ocean. Between Djenné and Timbuktu, the Niger is yielding new revelations to equal the discovery of the manuscripts. From as early as 500 BC, this area was one of the most densely urbanized parts of the world, rivaling other early urban civilizations, such as Mesopotamia. Doug Park is part of an American team that over recent years has extensively surveyed the region's wealth of archaeological sites. When we met, Doug was about to begin excavating a huge city site 10 miles south of Timbuktu. So how typical is a site like this in Mali? How many might there be?
Well, there is a lot. And there are accounts that say that if someone from Djenné wanted to send a message to a village or a city a few hundred kilometers away, he just had to shout, and the message would be carried across the floodplains and along the Niger until it reached that village, because so many people were living in such proximity. Yeah.
So the picture at that time was just of an urban landscape, all along the borders,
exactly.
The borders of the Niger River.
Exactly.
So read this landscape for me.
Here, what you look for are these gray areas.
Yeah, where it looks kind of earthy.
That is this massive pottery carpet. It spreads around an area somewhere between 70 and 100 hectares.
Which is enormous.
It's massive. This city rivals the size of the great cities of Mesopotamia, like Ur or Uruk.
So how does that compare to modern Timbuktu?
Well, to the old Medina of Timbuktu, it's maybe twice the size. And if you put that in comparison to the size of Timbuktu in regards to the rest of the world's cities during the Middle Ages, Timbuktu was somewhere around twice the size of London.
Timbuktu is twice the size of London.
And this site is twice the size of Timbuktu.
Wow. One fascinating fact to emerge is that these people lived together peacefully for centuries. Now that looks very much like a skull.
That is a skull, and what we can tell from it is that it's probably not going to be an Islamic burial, because its head is facing south.
So would he have definitely been in a grave?
Yeah, he was.
You
definitely
can tell he was buried as opposed to fell there.
Well, yeah, it's a good question.
Fell in battle.
Well, we don't really find any evidence for warfare in West Africa during the pre-Islamic period, and we're not really quite sure why that is. Peaceful society, we don't know. The general practice would have been is to bury the dead underneath the floor of the house.
Oh, I see. It's granddad under the house.
Yeah, good old granddad under the house.
So, I mean, are you going to excavate him, or are you going to leave him?
No,
here?
he's far too fragile to excavate.
So you're going to leave him to rest in peace?
For a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to show me the rest of the site?
Sure, I would.
These densely packed, interdependent communities each had a specific skill base. Some were farmers, others fishermen. There were potters and metal workers. Their activities cleared forests that once covered this landscape.
Some iron slag, and you see here, this is the byproduct of iron smelting. Now, if you could imagine, the amount of wood to make charcoal, amount of charcoal to fire the furnaces to melt the iron ore is an immense amount of wood.
So there must have been trees. There must have been a lot of trees.
Especially African hardwood trees, and you only have acacia now, and that's it. So,
Could it be as a result of the smelting?
absolutely.
Much of the pottery carpeting this site served the same purpose as our tin cans and plastic bags.
Oh, look at this. This is a pestle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've got one at home.
Yeah. This one's pretty well
Some
made,
things
too.
don't change.
No,
yeah,
no, they
absolutely.
stay the same for the most part, at least some of the real basic stuff. So, I mean, we're getting... Oh, here, look, here's a grindstone here. As you see. These two are probably a pair, actually.
Doug has described a cityscape whose architecture would have looked much like the villages still dotted around Timbuktu. It's just the density that's changed. It's amazing to learn that right here on this spot, there once existed a civilization 2,000 years ago, as old as Christianity, the size of which rivaled modern Timbuktu over there. And in terms of its antiquity, Timbuktu and the manuscripts dating back to the 11th century are beginning to look relatively, well, modern.